Because all superannuation is a very tax-effective way of saving for our retirement. Yes, there's another...
These retirees and others who plan to join them have gathered in Sydney's CBD to soak up some free advice about superannuation.
Yes, always happy for free advice. I've had free advice a few times, so I'm trying to keep us up to date as possible.
There's a wariness here about paying too much for financial advice.
And that's the reason that we are here, because we are not satisfied with the fees of another organisation.
Thank you very much.
The advice here might be free, but it wasn't for tens of thousands of people who have learned they paid for advice they never received. The Banking Royal Commission found the best interests of super fund members were often ignored in large financial institutions.
Were you aware that none of the TERP members had personal financial planners attached to their accounts?
No.
I think people are likely to be sceptical of the way that they're charged for financial advice and of the qualifications of their financial advisors. And hopefully they'll be sceptical about the way that the incentive structures are working so that they can see more transparently what's motivating their financial advisors and their brokers when they're offering advice.
The Royal Commission was most critical of retail funds, which return profits to both shareholders and investors. Industry funds, which return profits only to their members, were largely spared.
Well, retail funds have taken a terrible battering from the Royal Commission, and rightly so, and there's been a lot of capital outflow. Most of that money will go to industry funds, who've been very active trying to capitalise on the situation. So their share of the pool will increase and the retail fund share will decrease.
I think that a number of industry funds came out of the Royal Commission thinking, well, we got a tick, so we're fine. And I think that that's a dangerous approach to have, because I think they need greater vigilance and certainty to ensure that conduct issues don't creep in.
The Royal Commission found the laws governing super needed more effective enforcement.
Royal Commissioner Haynes said the two most important things were for superannuation funds to obey the law and to act consistent with community expectations, and where they didn't, for regulators to enforce the law. If both of those things happen, we're going to have a better system for members.
When 59-year-old Michelle Bradley-Smith witnessed retail funds being grilled at the Royal Commission, she realised she'd made a terrible mistake. A blood laboratory technician and keen motorcyclist, Michelle had recently switched her industry super balance of less than $120,000 into a higher risk retail fund.
I started to get really alarmed because they didn't tell me about any risks at all. They were very persuasive. It was like, I couldn't get rid of them. Just very smooth talking. Just made me want to change. Hello, Michelle speaking.
It all started when Michelle was cold called at home in February last year, just 7 years before she planned to retire. On the line was a financial advisor from a company called Smart Solutions, promising a bigger return on her super.
He said that his company could make me an extra $24,000 as opposed to what the company I was with at the time could make me. And it just sounded like, $24,000 extra when I only had 7 years of working left. It sounded good.
Michelle paid more than $4,000 for the initial advice and committed to thousands more in annual fees. But over the next 6 months, she watched her super balance shrink.
After them telling me that they were there to make me money, and, I lost $10,000 basically, or $7,000, and that's not what I was there for. I thought, well, I'm going to be losing money by the time I'm 67. I might not even have 100,000. It's too risky.
When we contacted the company that cold called Michelle, a manager contacted her and immediately committed to refunding her fees. Smart Solutions declined to respond to questions from 7:30. Wanting a safer ride to retirement, Michelle's switched back to her old industry fund and wants to caution others.
Be very careful where you put your super. Be very careful. It's not like I'm 30 years old and, I've still got a lot of working life to go. I haven't. And I need as much money as I can accumulate.
The performance of the fund you're in can make a life-changing difference to the amount of super you accumulate by the time you retire. Last December, the Productivity Commission found that more than 5 million Australian superannuation accounts consistently underperform.
The difference is significant. For a 21-year-old, it could be around $500,000 in terms of foregone retirement balance. That's the difference between being in a low-performing and a high-performing fund. Even if you were 55 years old today, if you could be moved from a low-performing fund to a high-performing fund, that could make in the order of $80,000 difference to your retirement balance. It often amounts to a different sort of retirement, but at the moment it can be the luck of the draw.
How should consistently poor performing funds be dealt with?
With a big stick. Being wielded by a big regulator, and I think that is a consistent message that has come out. Underperforming funds or funds that don't need to exist need to be consolidated. Now, I think we're already seeing that occurring. There's a lot of self-selection occurring at the moment.
Regulators have been given new powers to take those in charge of underperforming funds to court and strip them of their licences. Many Australians don't choose which fund they're in, but are instead defaulted into them.
A fund is effectively chosen on their behalf. That's the default sector, often chosen by the employer or mandated by an industrial instrument, an award or an enterprise agreement.
Changing jobs can lead to multiple accounts, meaning multiple fees and insurance premiums. About 1/3 of Australia's superannuation accounts, 10 million of them, are what's called unintended multiples. Despite persistent campaigns to get Australians to consolidate their super, about 40% of us still have more than one account.
I've accumulated about 8 super accounts in my working history, 35 years. The reason being is because you work for a company, then you might move to the next company and they say, we prefer you to have this super.
50-year-old Greg Halloran has been working with his hands since he was 15 years old, mostly in the mines.
Like most Australian workers, Greg has not been engaged in his superannuation, and what that's meant for him is that as he's moved from job to job, he's become a member of a new superannuation fund, and he has not consolidated his existing funds into a new fund as he has moved. The result of that is that there's been a proliferation of his super accounts, and that has resulted in obviously higher fees. And ultimately that will compromise the amount of money that he has at retirement.
As far as, having that nest egg, I don't have that nest egg because most of it's been chewed up by fees.
Through 5 of his super accounts, Greg was also paying disability or loss of income insurance premiums.
If anything goes wrong, at least you know that they're going to look after you.
4 years ago, something did go wrong, when Greg's arm was injured while operating machinery and he had to stop working permanently. Only 2 of Greg's 5 policies have paid out.
It annoys me because you're paying, in that case, $650 a month to be covered if anything goes wrong. Something has gone wrong, and now they're declining to pay. So how many other people are they doing this to? It's incredible. They've took my money for years and years and years, and now the time I need them, they're not there for me.
The problem at the moment is that 1 in 4 Australians are not aware whether or not they have life insurance through their superannuation. And 1 in 6 have duplicate accounts, which means they're paying premiums on more than one account, but they can't fully claim on both. So it is important that insurance be more fit for purpose.
Compulsory superannuation and the insurance that goes with it provides Australian workers with a much needed safety net.
Now, insurance in super is a critically important means of ameliorating the underinsurance problem that we have in Australia. We have 70% of Australian workers who obtain their insurance through their superannuation automatically. That works very well as long as super fund trustees act in their members' best interests and strike good deals on those insurance arrangements.
Scandals over excess fees, multiple accounts, and insurance premiums for policies members are often not aware of have shaken the superannuation industry.
So if you're a full-time worker on a decent income and you're in a good fund, the system is a terrific system for you. But if you're a part-time worker on a low income and you're in a poor fund, to use all of those negatives, then the system's not working as well for you as it might.
All of the challenges, the problems that we've pointed to are fixable, but you need to be prepared to put member interests first. And the great risk, the great hazard, I think, in this debate is that that member interest really gets drowned out or dominated by the interests of industry participants. But the point of the system is to deliver for members, and that should be the goal of public policy.